All right, welcome back to another edition of Tenacious J, Getting Real in Real Estate. The show where we talk about business, leadership, real estate, and all the things keeping entrepreneurs awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. Today's guest is Shannon Harrell, founder of Flow and Grow, and also co-owner of Flow Yoga Studios. And now, while the rest of us are trying to solve stress with more coffee, more emails, and real estate, some alcohol, and slightly unhealthy relationship with our phones, Shannon's teaching leaders radical concept, breathe. So she's been a communications executive, yoga instructor, leadership coach, and apparently someone believes our nervous system deserves at least as much attention as our inbox. So Shannon, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. And you know what, audience, first of all, when I was just talking to Shannon, we were talking for like 10 minutes before we jumped on live. And when you hear mindfulness and breathing and meditation, you know, a lot of in corporate business, you know, in the corporate world, we think of, oh, you know, like I said to Shannon, hippy dippy. But when we talk to Shannon, she teaches us the tools. It's very, very mainly connective, how the mind, the body, the breathing all connects and makes us better business people and entrepreneurs. So Shannon, let's just get back and let's get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So your background spans corporate communications, brand storytelling, yoga, and leadership. So how did those roles come together to create Flow and Grow, Shannon?
Great question. So, for a very long time, I thought of my work and my passions and even eventually kind of my side entrepreneurial business as different kind of streams, different almost paths for Shannon. But for 20 years, I worked in corporate communications and marketing, big companies like Progressive, Nestle, and also small startups. And my job at its core was to help leaders communicate strategy, navigate change, build brands, and inspire people. And at the same time, I was teaching yoga before work, after work, on weekends, and it felt very separate. It felt like two kind of different worlds. And I started noticing something, and it's that the executives that I was working with, they weren't struggling because they didn't know what to say. They were struggling with their communication because they themselves were exhausted. They were distracted. They were stressed. They were reactive. And so one of the biggest things that we so often focus on in communication is the audience, right? Who are they trying to connect with? What do those people need to hear? Whether they're a customer, whether they're a client, or whether they're an employee in the realm of kind of leadership development. And what we don't focus on enough is the sender of the message. So I can know everything I want about the recipient, and I can craft my message to check all of the boxes with regards to what they want to hear. But if the sender, me, is coming from a place of negativity, stress, burnout, we've all been on the receiving end of that before. We've all been on the receiving end of getting a message from somebody who, is exasperated, is stressed, snapped at us. And when that happens, are we listening to what they're saying? No, we're feeling their stress. We're feeling their energy. I think about this, there's a lot of overlap even with parenting. It's like when an unregulated parent is delivering feedback to their kid, they could be saying the very best reply to get that child to take action. But if they're screaming it at them, or if they're creating, a place where the person doesn't feel supported or safe, right, then the message dies. And so the communication challenge isn't really about the communication at all. Right. It's a human challenge. And that's kind of, for me, when everything clicked, I started realizing that leadership development and well-being, they were never meant to be separate conversations. We as communicators we're humans who are communicating. And so that requires us to take care of our human being self, to become regulated, to know who we are, to become self-aware. So we know how we're showing up to the world when we communicate something, regardless of what that is, and that we're able to control ourselves to set ourselves up for success when we're trying to communicate something, whatever that may be.
Yeah, and
so,
Shannon, you said, we're trying to set ourselves up to communicate for success, and working in the real estate business is extremely, extremely emotional. As you can imagine, buying a house, maybe for the first time, selling a house you've been in for 40 years. And and with that, a lot of what you said, the energy that the sellers and buyers bring to the agents, naturally the agents want to do them a service, but sometimes they absorb that anxiety and that anxious energy. So what would you recommend for a realtor dealing with everybody's emotions? And instead of being reactive, how would you walk something through becoming more responsive?
Sure. So I kind of think about it in two different ways. In the same way that you would think about your health, which is there's preventative care, which is things that you're just doing to be a better version of yourself when you're just at your baseline, right? And those are things like movement. Those are things like even taking time to do something you love, fostering your relationships, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, right? That's just like baseline as a human being. We all, when we are operating from that full cup, right, we're able to give ourselves to others. We're able to give our time to others. But then outside of that, it's like, okay, yes, we all know that. We all know we should move more. We all know that, stress is bad for our health and our well-being. But then what do we do when we are stressed? Or what we do when we do have someone super difficult that we're working with? And all we want to do is tell them like, oh my gosh, no, this is the reason why, because it makes so much sense to us, right? In those moments, the biggest thing we can do and kind of where the synergy and overlap from yoga, which again, to say it through the lens of business, so many people, to your point, call it like hippy dippy or woo woo, what have you. Yeah. But yoga, it started thousands of years ago. And the whole point of yoga was not to get into some fancy pose. The whole point of yoga, it started with breath. It is breath. Yoga is breath. Yoga is taking time and space to breathe so that you, in your day-to-day life, have that space to be able to respond versus react. It's to know that you can take a beat, slow down, and give yourself space to think, space to recover, space to respond. And it's really difficult to do that when you're always focused on the next thing, when you're in that state of reaction, because you're then responding to the energy. You're responding to that person's mood. You're responding to those people's words. And so breath is one of the best tools we have. It's free. It's science. We all can do it. But slowing down your breath, in fact, slows down your heart rate, which slows down your thoughts. So anytime even just notice it throughout your day. When you get stressed or worked up about something, what starts happening? My heart rate starts going faster. When my heart rate starts going faster, I get out of breath. If I'm arguing with somebody, we've all been there, right? We're getting so worked up that like we're not even breathing. And now all of a sudden it's like, like I'm in this state of a knot, right? And so to become unraveled to a place where I can think clearly and I can make headway with this other human being who is likely also very wrapped up like that. I need to create space. I need to breathe. And even just taking a beat to slow down, to breathe, to let the heart rate come down, to let the thoughts come down, you would be honestly in awe of what that can do to a human being if they just allow themselves that space. But we as humans often get to a place where we've almost gone beyond the state of repair, because we're acting in that state of like, oh, chaos, and we've thrown all this chaos into the room. Now the other person is chaotic, and at that point, like it's gotten to its combustion, right? And like finding space there, yes,
Right.
it's valuable, but it's like in those first moments when you're starting to feel it, and there are physical signs, we know what they are. Again, this is like the science of stress in the body. We all know what it feels like to feel stressed and to get that pit in your stomach or that increased heart rate. That is the time to just take a beat and slow down, and you yourself and the other person will be better off for it, because you'll have space to think, recover, respond, and remind yourself of like what you're even trying to accomplish and what the end goal of this communication or this exchange might be.
Yeah, I think it's so important because I've often said to either my kids or my friends or even work, like, you have to be responsible for the energy you bring into a room. So that's
Yes.
good or bad. And to take a breath in business, it also equals silence. And
Yes.
what I've been, when being on that end of, getting berated by a client, just, absorbing their energy, I'm on the other line of the phone, just breathing, like they are going through a lot, trying to hear what they're saying, taking a breath. And that space you're creating through breath also creates that silence to let them get it out. And then you can come back to some rational conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And
so I think that what you're saying, yeah.
I think presence too, right? So you'll hear, I work with a lot of leaders with regards to like how they want to be seen. And of course, they don't want to be seen as somebody who is stressed. But they want to be seen as like a strong leader or someone people can connect with. As my son would say, has like riz, right? Charisma. So, but they want that like X factor, right? They want people to like pay attention to them, to follow them. And I would imagine in the real estate industry too, like you are your own personal brand, right? As you're building these relationships with clients, your brand becomes important. But your presence isn't always about charisma, right? It's about attention. Like, can people feel that you're actually with them? And how can you give your presence to another human being? And your nervous system, your energy as a person, as a leader, as somebody that, is working with clients, it is contagious. And so if you walk into a room or an exchange or a meeting or a phone call and you are rushed or you're defensive or you're anxious, people will feel that before you speak. Often they feel that and they then assign meaning to what you're saying that you don't even mean, right? Like, how many times have you maybe had a situation where it's like, what you're saying is a good thing, but the client isn't hearing it as such. They're taking on another meaning. And it's probably because the way that you're showing up, the way that you're communicating, your energy is stressed. And so even though you're saying the right things, they are picking up on that stress. They are feeling that stress, and now they feel stressed. And so people borrow energy, they borrow stress. Well, they can also borrow regulation. They can also borrow calm. They can also borrow peace. And, think about people who lead through conflict. It's no different than leading through maybe what would be not the best deal. If you're presenting it from a place of calm, everything's going to be okay. This is great. And you're delivering that from a place of confidence, of calmness, of, opportunity, then the person on the other side of that is going to feel that. And it doesn't even at that point matter the terms or what is being said. It's you are but a conduit for their energy. And if you can help them feel a certain way, oh my gosh, that's probably like 90% of any business is helping people feel a certain way so that that's their mindset when they're taking on the information.
Yes, and it's like, you get a lot more with sugar, and
Yes.
and I love that you brought that piece into like the conflict, because what we see, yeah, on the title side of things, and I know lenders, we're the end of the transaction, and when something maybe goes awry, or they can't get immediate answers, I think that your advice for agents and title reps and escrow officers and lenders is, hey, number one, and I want to get into this too. Our goal, our objective is to close this deal for two families or two investors, whatever. So we all have a common goal. We're not going to point fingers. We're going to find solutions. So I would say, as an agent, presenting your worry to a lender or a title company, bring it down to more action pieces versus emotion, and you're going to get a lot further. So Shannon, in a situation where, let's say I'm a realtor and I'm bringing my anxiety to you, pointing fingers or blame. And actually, let's say I'm a seller and you're a realtor. And I'm like, Shannon, this isn't selling quick enough. Shannon, you're not doing your job. Shannon, you're not doing it. Shannon, you're not doing this. Dumping all of their fears, emotions, and negativity on you. As a listing agent, how would you react?
I mean, I would take a beat. So I think, because we're so go, 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 gotta get to the next thing. We as a society are just so fast paced. Even when things are going well, right? Not in times of stress. It's like, oh, we got this amazing thing. Now what's the next amazing thing? How are we going to keep this going? Momentum,
Yes.
momentum. There is power in the pause, always. So if you are on the receiving end of any of that, the best thing you can do is pause. And that goes back to that like preventative care, doing what you need to do to get to a place of regulation. Because even as you were giving me that example, I was starting to feel like, oh my gosh, that like, ugh. And now if I were to react then, or say like, whoa, fire something back, I'm now needing that energy with energy. Like that's what creates then the crazy reaction. Whereas if you name it, there's honestly so much comparison with parenting and working with other difficult human beings. And it's like, what you name the response. You seem stressed. You seem anxious. You seem frustrated. I'm feeling like you are frustrated. I'm feeling like we could both use a beat, right? So you're not assigning any emotion to how they're acting. You're simply naming it, and that is a fact, and that is inarguable. So if they feel a certain way about that, that is on them. You're merely naming what is happening. I can tell you're overwhelmed. I can tell that you are frustrated. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to take a beat and let me give this some thought, and I will get back to you. Or let's give this some time, and we'll, let's regroup in an hour after we've both, had some time. And then what do? Immediately, it's like a sigh of relief, because it's like, okay, I can find space in myself. I can not feel like I need to respond right this minute and say something that I'm going to regret, but even if it's just a 5-minute reset, right? Take a breath, walk outside, take in some slow breaths, look further than the screen in front of you, which is designed to keep us, in a state of needing constant validation and instant response. Mm-hmm. Put it all away, and return to that breath, return to that space, and even return to the intention of what you're wanting. So one of those words in yoga, again, that can freak people out if you start talking about yoga as a framework to dealing with a lot of this, is when you're in a yoga class, what you do at the beginning is you set an intention. And purely all that is maybe it's peace, maybe it's patience, maybe it's getting through the class, right? But like whatever it is, you are stating a goal for yourself. And there's something super powerful about that. There's something super simple about that. We all kind of know what an intention is. It's just another phrasing of goal. And so if we have an opportunity in one of those moments of tension or moments of not having clarity or an impasse, if you will, after taking that space for breath, there's also an opportunity to remind ourselves, like, what is the goal? What are we trying to accomplish here? What do we want this person to do? What do we want to do? How do we want to feel? And how do we want this other person to feel? And then if our actions or if what we have in our control are not going to help us with that intention or with that goal, like, what are we doing? Don't do those things. But then that's something that makes it a lot easier for leaders, and I would imagine anyone, to then say like, okay, yes, I can rally around that. Because if what we're really focused on is the output, if we're really focused on is the goal or that intention, then if what I'm doing isn't going to help move that forward, it is a waste of my time. It is not helpful. And at that point, it's for me. It's for my ego. It's for my emotion. It's for me to feel like I have the final word, which we as humans, like, of course, that's how we act. That's what we do, because we are human beings with real feelings and emotions. And it's not to say that we need to ignore those, but we do need to not act on those feelings. We need to act from a place of, emotional regulation. Two things can be true. We can be super annoyed and frustrated at this other human being, and we can want to tell them off. And we can also know that that is not best for this outcome. That is not best for this intention. That is not best for that deal. And so we're going to put that aside. We're going to take a deep breath and recognize, yeah, this person is really bothering me, and I'm going to journal about it later, or complain to my partner about it, or scream into a pillow, like whatever you want to do, but you're going to remove it from the current situation because it simply will not be helpful. And instead we need to focus on what we want the outcome to be.
Shannon, I love this because I had another interview with author of Fight Less, Win More, Jonathan Smith. And his book was a spin on Christopher Voss's Never Split the Difference. Negotiation Tactics 101. And for any of those who are thinking the woohoo yoga, what you said in naming their feeling, Jonathan says label their feeling. Same thing. When you say take a beat, take a breath, the book talks about you can't negotiate when you're hot-headed, like, your capacity to think diminishes. So you are bringing in, I got chills, you're bringing in the same tactics because it's human nature, it's human behavior. Yes. So what you said, like, hey, if it's not going to serve you, like if it's not serving this situation, then you can put that aside. And easier said than done unless you practice it. So Shannon, let's say this does not come second nature to so many people, because like you said, it's simple, it's not easy. So how would you practice self-regulation? Maybe it's at home or what, but what tips do you have for practicing? So when you're in that situation, you could be like, oh yeah, I remember what Shannon said. I'm going to take a breath. I'm used to this.
Absolutely. So the reason why yoga works for so many people, and it might not be the answer for everybody, but yoga is about breath. And so first and foremost, breath work. If anybody ever wants to try breath work, the easiest one is called box breathing. Okay. So think about, like, next time you're feeling super stressed, maybe you get an email that you want to, like, fire back on right away. Before doing that, stop, just do box breathing. It will take you 30 seconds. Okay. You're going to inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. It's a box. Inhale, 4 count, hold, 4 count, out, 4 count, hold, 4 count. So try that. It's free. It's very effective. I incorporate it in almost every class that I teach. But back to why I think yoga can be such a beautiful way of practicing this regularly. is, and that may make some people feel uncomfortable if they're not used to doing yoga. Well, guess what? We're uncomfortable in the world all the time. That's when we get stressed. This situation that we just shared where someone was coming at us with a conflict, that makes us uncomfortable. So the more we can practice being uncomfortable in a safe setting, in a way that we're able to find regulation through breath, through movement, whatever that is what yoga is. That is, and it's not only yoga, right? I come at it through the lens of yoga because I own yoga studios and I love yoga and I'm a yoga teacher. But some people can find this through running. Some people can find this through, whatever physical practice they have that is going to get the heart rate and the breath up and move you to a place of discomfort. Because what's going to happen is the more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations that you push yourself through. There's an amazing book called The Body Knows the Score. A lot of psychologists talk about this book. A lot of therapists use this book. It's super thick. It's probably on my bookshelf behind me, but it's a long read. But the crux of it is that our bodies, when they go through something, they remember it. And the next time we go through that thing, they go back to that place. And so it's why some people have post-traumatic stress disorder, because when they were in a traumatic situation, their bodies clenched up. And now next time they're in a traumatic situation, their body clenches up. But we can rewire that. We can use that knowledge to the body knowing the score to work for us versus against us. And so if we are doing something physical that is difficult, that is uncomfortable, that is stressful, that we're like, I don't want to be doing this right now. This sucks. But we breathe through it. We keep with it. And our body learns, I can do hard things. And I could do hard things and I could be okay. And I could do hard things and I could get stronger. We are teaching our brains, we are teaching our bodies resilience, and we are teaching our brains and we are teaching our bodies that when things get hard, we don't have to react. We can keep a level head and we could push through it. And that is what anybody who practices yoga will learn quite quickly, because there are many times in the class when you're like, this is uncomfortable and I want to stop this now, and the heat and the thing. But what do? You breathe through it. You slow down, you take a beat, and you get to the other side of the physical movement and start to get into your breath and your mind. And that's where you get to the connection between mind and body, breath and mind. And what you're honestly doing is just like how you would build a muscle in your bicep to be able to lift something heavy. You're building a muscle in your brain that I can do this hard thing and I'm going to be okay. And by the way, at the end of a yoga class, and this isn't unique to yoga, it's any, physical practice. When you're done, do you feel good?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes. Even though it really sucked, are you like, oh my God, I feel so good. And so what ends up happening is your body and your brain learns that I can actually feel really good after feeling bad. I can actually feel awesome after feeling uncomfortable. And that means that I don't have to be scared of being uncomfortable. I can be uncomfortable and my body and my brain knows, hey, this is going to be not fun for a little bit of time. But if we work through it, and we stay grounded and we keep our eyes on the prize or on the intention, right? We're going to get to the other side of it and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was great. And I can do anything, and rinse and repeat. We're on to the next.
Shannon, I love that. And I love the fact that you're promoting obviously physical activity. Yoga, yes. Yoga, I mean, it's been wonderful for me. I can go in so stressed. Then I'm like, oh, all I can do is concentrate on the movement so I don't fall. And then the end of the class, I'm a sweaty pig, but it's great. Ask your husband Kevin about it, sweat hogs. Anyways, but including running, including heavy lifting, all of that releases dopamine, and you stop remembering why you were so stressed out and start focusing on the difficulty of the movement. And then by the end of that, it's a healthy, I don't want to call it a vice, but I do want to call it's a healthy way to get to the other side. Like you said, doing hard things, being capable of it. And when you're sitting talking to somebody yelling at you, at once I was thinking, I just got done running a half marathon. Yep. Like I've
Yes.
done harder things in this conversation. And as a parent,
Yes.
we've done the hardest things, but
Yes.
being able to have a release, you can come back calmer.
100%. And you know,
So I
that
think
it doesn't
that's great
even
advice.
just need to, yeah, it doesn't even need to just be physical. Like if people aren't into the physicality of it,
I don't know.
try meditation because that's really uncomfortable too.
Get this hour this freezes. So I'm hoping pretty sure. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you are. Yes, sorry. Hi. I was gonna say, if
Shannon, can
people
you
are, I can hear you.
hear me? We got jarbled up for a second. Here we are.
I think I
Go ahead.
think I can hear you okay now.
There you are. Are you we're there? We're good now?
I think so. I can't tell if I'm frozen or you're frozen.
Well, everybody, this is live. And
Hi. I think you're frozen, but am I still on?